What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Black Rabbit Collective. Today and tomorrow, we will be wrapping up the final interviews of our candidate series for the 2026 Jackson County primary races. Got a wonderful candidate getting ready to step to the stage with us. I'll let you know that today is the final day for early voting. You can literally watch this podcast live right now from the early voting polls. You could be in line right now, getting ready to cast your vote for my man, Mr. John Herrera. Ladies and gentlemen, John Herrera.
Hey, my friend, how are you?
What's up, dude?
Just sitting here, man, ready to get this interview started. I know you got some questions, and I got answers.
Yeah, so. I love that. I got to say, I wanted to wait until I popped you up on the screen to say this so that we were actually looking at each other. It's not very often that you just run into somebody, you meet somebody for the very first time, in your very first interaction, and I'm like, oh, man, not only is this guy my people, but like this guy's one of my homies. I feel like I've known this guy my whole life. Just based off of like a couple interactions. Like we have similar life experiences. We've been through similar things. We've come from similar places. But where we're at right now in our lives, we connected like instantly. So I just wanted to thank you for accepting the invitation, but then also just like connecting with me on a personal level, man. I really appreciate that.
De nada, man. De nada, bro. Like real recognize real. That's why we got along so well, man. Like after you and I met at that polar plunge, man. After you left, I was talking to Amy, my partner, and I was like, "Yo, you don't real recognize real, babe. Like that's the real dude right there." I fucks with him. She was just like, "You guys seem to get along," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's real, bro. Real recognize real."
And it's so like, I see you talking to my friends, my people, and I'm like, "Oh, he must be over there like campaigning a little bit." And I approach, and I'm like, "Oh, you know," and then it's sure enough, we're like friends of friends, and like more connected than we know. And I just like it just made me feel good inside to know that like the candidates that I'm talking to are in it for the same reasons that I am. Because I'm on a mission, John Herrera. I don't know if you've seen what I've been doing across various platforms, but I am on a mission of unity, brother. I am on a mission of unity, trying to bring this together and contribute as much as I can. So,
yeah, man, I've noticed it. I've actually seen it, man. You have a strong foundation here in the community. I've been watching you. You're one of the doers, man. Like, and you're not in it for the attention and all that. You're there to get stuff done. And hats off to you, man. Kudos to you, especially with what you're doing with the community table. I see you and I salute you. But keep doing, man. Like every time I see him, like, you're getting it done.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just like I've sat back silent for like 2.5 to 3 years. Like I don't like doing the social media stuff. I don't like engaging. Like I pretty much just have like sat back and observed for a very long time. And it just got to the point where like I couldn't take it anymore. And I had to start like sharing some of the story, sharing some of the information that's like printed, just like basic stuff that's printed in the newspaper that just doesn't come across people's screens. Information that is vital to like decisions that are being made, to like who are you going to vote for, all that stuff. And like the general consensus of the community is they are a little bit unaware of what's like actually happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, that's actually the same reason I jumped in head first. Like way back last year, I want to say it was last year. It was back in May when I ended up making a newspaper for basically saying something to Ms. Hooper. Saying that her behavior when she made the comments about the homeless using the library, it made me feel some kind of way, man. Because I remember I was at the Harewood's Food Market. I was getting me one of the rotisserie chickens and whatnot because I was gonna make some tacos. And I remember looking at it and read the paper. I'm like, like, are you serious? And I got off of work and I remember scrolling through it. It's like, if you got something to say, go ahead and appear. And man, I was tired. I was exhausted. Like that was me tired after a very long day of dealing with, legal matters with the attorney I was working with at the time. And I got up there. I only had like 5 things written on there, but I had something to say. And after that, I remember sitting back thinking, I'm like, somebody needs to do something. And I looked around like, ¿Dónde están? Nobody. Everybody was upset, but nobody was going like, "I'm gonna do something." I'm like, "Sabes qué? I come from a family of doers, man." And so I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna throw my hat in. I don't know the first thing about being a politician. I got more in common with someone who just got behind, got outside of the wall than I had with anyone else. And then I realized at my first appearance at the in September at the Democratic meeting, I went up there. It was so bad, brother. It was so bad because I went up there. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm here to get things done. And then people started coming and talk. This is what you got to do, John. This is what you got to do. And I'm grabbing my notepad. I had a little notepad and I'm writing stuff down. And I've been going off ever since. And I'm like, this is going to get done. This is important to me. And I've been one foot in front of the other since.
Yeah, it's because people want somebody that's like invested in it. Like your attitude, your passion is contagious. I see it on the day to day, just in my like daily work that like I'm because I'm the same way. I'm the same way. And that like my attitude and the way that I approach things with my personality gets more done than anything else. It's the passion, it's the attitude. The first time that I saw you was at that meeting. Okay. The first time I laid eyes on you was at that meeting. I was tuned in live that night. We caught it, and I was paying attention. I was like, who is this guy? And then I saw in the paper and everything, happened.
I'm like you, man. I'm behind the scenes. I'm like you. I'm behind the scenes. We're getting stuff done. And then I popped up, and then people at my job were like, at the other legal professionals that I know, they're like, "Look at you, Herrera." And I'm like, "Man, I had enough of this. This ain't right."
Yeah. I'm about action, dude. I don't need to talk about what I'm doing. I just prefer to do it. And I'm an action man, and I want action people in my circle. I got action people behind me. And so to see somebody like you doing that is what appealed me to you.
Thank you. I definitely agree with that. There's a lot of people who are in it just for the social media views and things like that. As you notice, I'm pretty social media savvy, but it's always things that I'm doing, not doing with other people, just because I was raised that way. You do that one-on-one.
Yeah, we got these beautiful tools available to us, right? We have the most amazing technologies that man has ever seen right now. And you have a choice, John Herrera. You have a choice. How are you going to use those tools? Are you going to fuck around and or are you actually going to use it for a valuable purpose? You know what I mean? Am I going, the things that I'm putting out there, is it something that speaks to somebody, is important?
Yeah, I definitely, to answer your question directly, I mean, this is something I tell people all the time. It's 2026. We walk around with these cell phones. We're paying every month we're paying for them, $80, $20, whatever. We can do so much with this. And you can see it with the videos that, protesters are doing, showing what's going on with ICE, what's going on in their community. And these are collective voices. If I get, actually, you know what? Doesn't matter if I get elected or not. I'm still going to continue doing me. I'm still going to continue showing the animals there at the Jackson County Animal Shelter, showing the events in the community, and just keep pushing that platform forward. And I didn't even use the platform for it, but I understand that I have like 200 some odd followers. So that gives them an extra push. And if I do become commissioner, I am intending, and I am going to follow through, in which I'm going to create a live if something very contentious pops up. Because unfortunately, the commissioners, when you're having the commentary, they can't respond, can't say anything. Like, for example, I want to know why they made the decision to remove remove the what is that called? Silver Sam, the compromise we had. Like, why did we remove it? Whose idea was it? We need accountability. And too many people hide behind the title of, "Oh, I'm a commissioner, you can't say it." Like, no, I'm a constituent first. I live here. And people forget about that. And I'm going to fully hold myself accountable. And like I told you, in the back room, I was like, "Hey, man, if you see me doing something you don't agree with, or I veer a little to an angle that I shouldn't be veering to, I need you to grab me and say, 'Hey, Herrera, pon atención what you're doing. These are the effects. Think ahead, brother.' And correct me to teach me, and I will always listen."
Yeah, I mean, transparency is a buzzword this time of year. You know what I mean? And so, what does that actually look like? It looks like what you're describing. you know. Simple, like for people like me who can't make it to the meetings due to a demanding job schedule, the audio and video from the meetings is completely horrendous. Like you can't understand what the commissioners are actually saying when they are speaking. If I want to play a clip on my podcast, I have to like go download the clip and then clean up the audio just so I can play it so my audience can hear what was said. They just have like the worst technology. And then the other thing is that public comments, like folks can't make it up to public comments for a 6:30 meeting or whatever, but they have all their YouTube comments turned off. And I understand why, spam and yada yada, whatever. But we're live streaming right now on a YouTube channel, dude. They have moderation, auto moderation. Like you can set it high, you could set it low, you can block certain words. Like they could set it up to formally where like people can, hey, you comment down below of the video while it's live happening. Like that to me, like just not having that ability just seems like crazy.
I definitely agree with you. And that's something I've been doing myself when I do my videos and say, hey, you got questions, comment below. And you're right. Like they have these comments turned off, and it's why, and I see your vantage point of saying, you know, there's going to be trolls, there's going to be spam. And I want to do live interviews, and some people say, John, you're going to get those. I mean, bro, they come with the territory. You know, you're going to get trolls.
Yeah.
I mean,
how we
people throw, exactly. People throw shade and hide their hands all the time. I mean, just deal with it. That's why you're in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, man, I just want to like roll the tape back a little bit with you. And I want to really dig into like John Herrera, the man. And I want to know like kind of a little bit about how it all started. Like, what was it like growing up, Madison County? Like, tell me the whole gist, like early childhood stuff. Like, what was that? What's the beginning of the evolution of John Herrera?
Let's start at the very beginning, baby. Let's start at the very beginning. I am the son of two formerly undocumented immigrants, for people that care. They're formerly undocumented. I grew up a migrant worker's son. My mom and my daddy worked tobacco in the fields of Madison County. They worked for various farmers. You know, you got Dwayne Rice, Latham Franklin, Bruce Hall, all of them. My daddy and I worked with them. And I remember as a kid, you know, we get the season done and we go to Texas, do the work there. Sometimes we end up in Florida, wherever we were, and we would work. But in the 6th grade, I told my parents I was tired of moving because low key, I didn't want to go back to Texas because it was just too hot. And I like the weather up here and the nature. And I felt the community was stronger. And that's why we stayed in Madison County. My mama worked fast food. My daddy did carpentry work and still did field work here and there. And I got my work ethic from them because I feel that I see the world through the lenses of someone who is undocumented because that's how I grew up. I didn't realize that being undocumented was such a game changer because that's the thing I've always known. You know, we grew up without much. In fact, like most of my childhood, we lived in an RV that had one little, you know, an extension cable that went through my tias that was next to me. We had an outhouse. And then when we came to Madison County, the other reason I wanted to stay here is because the farmers, they would pay like no shade to the farmers whatsoever. And I'm not throwing shade. I'm just calling it what it is. They would pay my daddy a little bit less than most, but they would make up with us by giving us a house. When you're a kid, you got a 2-bedroom, 1 kitchen, 1 bath, 8 people in there. And the whole living room was mine. That was my spot. That was the only like price because the alternative was an RV. And so after we stayed in Madison County, I ended up meeting this man named Tom Field for Support Our Students, which is where everything sort of starts, where I start building. So if you hear me say something, it's like, wow, you know, that's all Tom Field right there. That's the man that taught me how to be a man. I actually called him dad. And so I did support our students. I did part of the mountain area workforce. I worked with children as a teacher's assistant in high school. But, you know, when you grow up the way that I did, you look for the easiest way out. Like any kid that's going around me, like, I didn't want to, this is how rural we were, man. When you had the money to go to Walmart, you were doing well. I went to the Super Saver. I went to the Family Dollar, fam. Like, I did not want them cheap ass shoes. I wanted some Shacks. That's how broke we were. Bro, we were so broke. And I ended up making some bad decisions. I don't I don't regret them because they made me the man I am today. They gave me the perspective to move how I move now, and that decision ended up getting me to get convicted of attempted traffic, and it wasn't it was a whole thing, man. But I'm not going to get into it because it will derail the whole conversation. Because I ended up pleading guilty to it. It is what it is, and I ended up being basically told, you want to do 5 years or you want to do 16, 18 months, John. The evidence is stacked against me, and this is something too that helps me in the legal world because I understand not every guilty plea means you're guilty. It means you did a decision based from shitty circumstances. Again, you want to do 5 years, take it to trial, tell them the truth, which they're not going to buy because you got a public defender. No shade to the public defender. I see him all the time. That man does not remember me. Like he's a DA now. I have seen him in a courtroom, Steven. I sat next to this man. I'm like, what's up? How you doing? I'm like, man, this man don't recognize me. To him, I was another file, and this was the worst 3-court appearances of my life. And I took off, went to Polk Correctional, and Polk Correctional is in Butner, North Carolina, not Polk County. It's Polk Correctional in Butner, North Carolina. They call it Gladiator School when I was going in there because everybody did processing. I did my 16. I got into some situations there. And then when I came home, I was homeless. I stayed with my mom's there a little bit, but unfortunately, some outside forces basically influenced me to just dip out. And I remember getting in my little Pathfinder that I had then, got a gym bag full of stuff, and I hit it. Started selling, plasma, looking for work. I couldn't find any work for like the first 4 months coming home. I don't know if you have any personal experience with that, but when you got to check the box, like, nobody going to hire you, especially when you came home because you got that stigma. And I ended up basically borrowing a weed eater from one of my buddies. And if this wasn't so funny, it'd be sad as hell, bro. Like, for real, for real. I ended up, nobody would give you a job. I'd be like, hey, my name is John. I'd like to cut your grass, man. I'd cut it for like $20. No bites. I'd go up there like, hola, mi amo Juan, cortar your yaga, $20. Like, bro, I got so much more money. Like, I was like, oh, man, I'm going to have to act like I don't, like my pops, bro. There's no shit about pops, but that man was on some gay because his English is almost as good as mine, but he would act like he don't speak. And I'd be like, Daddy, that's wrong. Now I'm looking back, I'm like, yo, that man was on to something. And after that, I ended up getting I had my math tutor. I call her Auntie Pfeffer. Hi, Auntie Pfeffer. If she's watching, I love you. You're the reason I made it this far through AB Tech and everything. One of the reasons. I told her, like, I wanted to go back to school because I needed to keep my mind focused. And so I ended up getting dual enrolled at Southwestern for the paralegal program and also at AB Tech. And I ended up becoming dual enrolled. I made the dean's list every semester, like every time. But the reason I decided to be a paralegal, man, this is mad funny. This is the true lore. Was that I was sitting in booking, and you remember those ads that used to come in the TV that I had. Learn my name. You remember those? Boy, I was sitting there and processing. I was cuffed like this. I'll never forget it. And there was an officer. There was actually several officers there, and they thought it was funny. And so they called me Johnny back then. They're like, "Well, Johnny, and now that you've been, what are you going to do now?" And of course, I'm sitting there. I'm a little smart-ass 19-year-old. I ain't going to deny it. When I was 19, I was not the person I am today. I was like season 1, and everybody was on strike. We were just winging it. And I looked up, and I'm just looking at the role, and I didn't know anything what being a paralegal was, Stephen. Hand on the Bible. Did not know what it meant. It just had the word legal on it, and it sounded good. So I was like, man, I'm going to be a paralegal. I didn't even know what it meant. They finished processing me, and then when I went to Polk and I did the resident substance abuse treatment program, great program, wonderful program. It should be in every place. It should be, because you a lot about cognitive behavior and thinking before you do anything. And that's where my journey as being a paralegal essentially started. And now I'm here. I've worked as a paralegal for the last 12 years, going on 12 years, specialized in civil litigation, like, family law, civil suits and stuff. Like, that's my heart. Like, right now I work for another attorney here in town, doing, translating for criminal cases and selling speeding tickets, and that gives me also a unique perspective as well.
I find it so interesting that you were just naturally drawn to service, because you mentioned being in high school and being like teacher's assistant and kind of playing a role of a helper. And then instantly, regardless of the circumstances, you find yourself putting a bullseye on a paralegal employment position, like a natural reaction. It sounds like you're a born to be of service.
Yeah, man, that's one of the things I learned um, because growing up in as a migrant worker and being one of the only ones who could speak both languages. Like, keep in mind, Steve, when I was 8, 9, 10, one of those ages, like before the double digits, I remember I would be asleep and my dad would come into the RV, like, "Hijo, no matate, no matate." I'm like, because the Spanish for get up, and I'm like, "What do you get this?" Like, "What do you want?" I'm sleeping. He's like, "Hey, they arrested your uncle. We need you to go translate." Oh, okay, thinking it's one of my actual uncles, and I get there. If you're a minority, everybody's your cousin, everybody's your uncle. Brody,
Dude you never even met before.
And every time it was somebody I didn't know, and I'm sitting there. Can you let him know that he's been charged with the whoopie woo? And I'm like, el oficial quiere que sabes que te cargaron con este cargo, y te van a poner una fianza. Your bond is going to be like, this is me as a little kid. And my father ingrained that in me. And so now I'll never forget it. One day I went off on him as a kid. And I remember him saying, it's like, "Nico, I'm going to say it in Spanish, I'm going to translate it because it hits different. And if anyone here, if you're bilingual, you know what I'm talking about." He said, "Mijo, tienes una obligación. Y tienes un talento y Dios te dio esas bendiciones para que hagas eso para ayudar a la gente. Esa es tu obligación." In translation, says you have an obligation to translate because you speak both languages. If you see someone who's having trouble communicating, you are obligated to. Like, I've had some of the days, man, where I'll be going like to simple places, Walmart, at the mechanics or something. There's somebody there. There's obviously a communication issue. And I've always stepped in, "Hey, me llamo Juan. Yo hablo dos idiomas. Tengo que ser un intérprete." Yeah, please, please, please. And then you translate and you get to know people. Like, that's how I started translating here in our county. Because translating for a local business when the employees were having an issue. And I plan to bring that same mindset, that same thing that's ingrained in me, to being a county commissioner if I'm elected on March 3rd. Well, as the primary candidate in November,
Your dad had you doing paralegal work at 9 years old.
That's
what you just told me.
Dude, it's all natural to me.
How does your family feel about John Herrera entering the political realm?
Oh, they have already seen it coming, man. I've been very politically active on social media. I didn't do a lot of protests because when you have a felony, like the last actual protest before I disappeared, was the Day Without Immigrants back in 2007, 2008. And then when I caught my felony, I was going to go protest this whole situation that occurred at one of the camps I was staying at, where they took all our shit. Like, they took our tents and everything. That was the last time I said anything. But like, I remember talking like, "I'm going to go protest." Like, dude, if they arrest you, they're going to put your mug shot before they put your picture from AB Tech. And ever since, I always thought about that. And when I got out of those situations and I finally was working with people within the community, I was like, I don't want to embarrass them, because if something happens, and because, when you're protesting, anyone who's protesting, everything can change at the drop of a second. An officer can use their discretion to arrest you if they think it's warranted. And that's the officer's discretion. Even, you're just passionate, you mean no harm, they're going to arrest you. And like, to quote my homeboy, like, your dumb ass is going to show up there on WS13 with your old mugshot, even though they got like 30 of them with a suit and tie, bro. That's why I'm very careful when you see me to wear my suit and tie, because I don't want people to be like, "Mr. Herrera."
Oh, that's so funny. Tell me about the reentry process and kind of like barriers that you may have been faced with, because I see a lot of like neighboring counties offering like reentry programs, drug courts, alternatives. And so I was kind of curious, like, what that process was like for you, And what challenges did you specifically face?
I would not be here without my community. Straight up, straight like that. I would not be here without the community. I would not be here without the resident substance abuse and treatment program, um, because they really had us challenge our way of thinking. Because here's the thing: we are so stuck in survival mode when we come home because prison does not rehabilitate people. Anyone who tells you that has never been in there. You come out worse. There's a reason why we call it college for criminals. There's a reason for it. Because you come out, it's different. The world is so, even now, like I've actually told my partner once, I was like, I it's hard because in prison, your first reaction is always to, to engage, and that's not the way you do it as a civilian. You gotta you gotta be able to converse about things. You gotta be able to listen, not just I'm listening, but listening to understand versus listening to respond, because that's what all prison is. And when you come home, the first thing you got to deal with, and everybody who's a friend of Bill and the addict will tell you, you don't get to come back home to a clean state. You're still dealing with all the hiccups you did. I remember coming home, man, and like I had my mentor Tom. He brought me home, and my first meal was a Applebee's. I remember he brought me home, and my mom made tamales, bro. I hadn't had any good food in 16 months, straight swolls, boy. And I remember looking at my mom. My mom went from like, no offense, mama, like this to this, And I remember looking at her and eating my tamales and going like, bro, I really fucked up. Like I really fucked up. Like I mean, I know a lot of people don't like the language, but that's the best way to say it. I have a whole thesaurus, but that nothing gets that point. I fucked up. And I apologized to her, and then she let her rip, let her fly on me. And I sort of realized, I was like, okay, first things first, man. I'm gonna go home. I'm actually gonna sleep, because you don't sleep in prison. You really don't. I went home. I slept for like, full like 19 hours or something, like double-digit hours. And then I ended up going back tracing and apologizing to all these people, like, hey, because we don't get to decide how someone still holds on to that anger for taking advantage of them and things like that. And so once you get that done, you start working on yourself. And there's a common misconception by people who come home in which, oh, you did your time, you get to go because, God forgives. You're forgiving forgiveness with accountability, bro. you're confusing them. They're the two separate things. And so when I started apologizing to people, and then I started rebuilding my life and rebuilding myself who I was, and the way that I did that, and I did this with my brother. He made a horrible decision, but my brother's in the beginning, it was working really well, and I told him that was the plan. We inserted ourselves with people who were traveling the same place we wanted to, because it's sort of like the saying, you hang out with two broke dudes, you're going to be the third. You hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a cut. Shout out to Lucky's for the haircut. And you hanged around, like we went to AB Tech, or I went to AB Tech, and I started talking to people who were working on getting their diplomas, and I just started emulating them. Like I had to change the way that I talk, and this is going to sound mad funny, but this is the truth. I started watching a lot of Friends and How I Met Your Mother, because they spoke. I mean, it's just the vernacular that you choose and how you choose to express yourself, because you got to be two different people. And so once you learn that, you sort of slowly start being ingrained. And then one day you're like me, you wake up, your last semester from graduating for the program you're on, you're like, holy crap, I'm not that person anymore. I'm not 101, 84, 32. Because in prison, they make you remember your number. I'm now John Herrera, the community college graduate. Like even now, man, like it just hits different. And those are the barriers, and the only way to get through them is to just bump, because everybody has their different hurdles. Some people have support, but they don't have accountability. Some people have accountability, no support, and we just got to bring those two together, because every person is different.
You got that label, John Herrera, magna cum laude, graduating from carrying that label with you, bro. That one's
Yeah,
on the
dude.
resume.
I put it every time, man, because I put it up there with my prison experience too. It's funny because if you look at my resume, it says state of North Carolina, Butner, North Carolina. I was the library assistant because that's what I was. I was the laundry guy, and I was also a GED tutor. And because I was the only one in my dorm, because it was 30 people in one dorm, and and I was a GD tutor. And so that way, if they would say, "Well, Mr. Herrera, you didn't tell us you went to prison." Like, right, baby, it's right there on my resume. You just thought there were civilian jobs. That's on you. You should have asked.
Attention to detail. Attention to detail.
Exactly. That's the difference between the best paralegal and a mediocre one, man. And I'm the best paralegal. I said what I said.
You came out though, like you came out, you went through some difficulties and you got yourself back into school, right? You kind of started the process of essentially rebuilding your life.
Mhm.
But you came out with a standard, right? Like you had an expectation of yourself. Like, not only am I going to do this, not only am I going to live a prosperous life and do the next right thing and all the things you hear, but I'm going to be the best at it. You know what I mean? I'm
Mhm.
going to hold myself to a standard of excellence. Where does that
That's
come
right.
from? Where does that come from in you?
I'm not trying to turn my answer into "Hello, darkness, my old friend." I think very highly of my father, but he, like any other man, has does not keep an eye on his vices, has succumbed to it, and it comes from the domestic violence that my mama and I suffered while she was with him. We were with him. Essentially, there is a memory that I have when they're both are going at it, and she said, "Mi hijo va a ser alguien en la vida," which translates to "My son will be someone in life." My dad just so I was sort of used to people just sort of me because it started with my daddy, and she used to tell me like, "Mijo, you got to be somebody. You got to be somebody." So I'm doing this really for my mom to show her, like, 'cause my mom was 18, 18, no documents, by herself, working as a nanny there in Texas. Um, and that's where she started from, and she initiated this work ethic in me. And then, of course, you add in what my father did, which is service to our community and everything else. And then you add Mr. Tom Fields' mentality about being a better person and everything. I have no choice but to move forward. That was the training that was ingrained in me.
You mentioned earlier, and I've read posts where you talk about like your childhood was chaos was a bit normalized a little bit. I think I heard you say that earlier today.
Hmm.
Um, as a Jackson County commissioner for District 1, like I see it every single day in my day job. I see chaos normalized in my day job. As a District 1 county commissioner, like what can we do as a community to start addressing some of that in the homes of our neighbors who may have to live that way for whatever reason?
That's the danger of chaos, man. Like, and that's one thing I learned at resident substance abuse treatment program. I remember I went through their whole little list and everything, and I was like, "See, I'm not addicted to anything because I wasn't. I wasn't a user." And he's like, "Well, no, Mr. Ray, you're addicted to chaos." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "No, you're addicted to chaos. You feel comfortable where there's chaos." And I say that to say this as foundation. When someone is normalized to chaos, we're naturally drawn to it. It's the only lifestyle that we know. And we have to not alert, but we have to show them that that's not right. That's not normal. The day that the chaos broke for me in the cycle of domestic violence, it was a horrible, horrible night. It's one of the worst nights I lived in my life. It triggers my PTSD. Like sometimes when I go to sleep, I relive that night. But I remember opening the door and just seeing the whole Madison County. Well, back then it was the Walnut Fire Department, and there was a kid that I went to school with, and we locked eyes. And I remember thinking, like, this ain't normal. We need to be able to help our neighbors here in Jackson County before it gets to that point. They shouldn't have to go through what I've been through. And that's the other downside too with certain Jackson County constituents. I'm not calling you out or anything. I'm just calling it what it is. That's the colors in the palette. Just because you had it rough does not mean everyone else needs to. You should at least go back and have some empathy and be like, man, I had to walk around college to each class. and you guys have it scooters because it's easier for you. No, man, you were walking around because that's all you had. These are doing scooters because that's what they had, you know. And so when you start talking to your neighbors, just ask, give them a sense of normality. Like when I was a kid, there was a group of neighbors across the mountain in the Holbeins. I used to go to their house every week, once a week for dinner, and that to me was normal. And then when there was a young lady I was dating in high school, the Rice family, they taught me normalcy in a family as well. And just by being involved with our neighbors and communities, because in the mountains we have a tendency to just sort of stay to ourselves, but we still need to check up on each other and just reach out and just say, "Hey, I'm here," and show them a different way of life if chaos is what they have, because that's not normal and it should never be normalized.
And it's like your story though is so powerful in that like you use those experiences
Mm-hmm.
to as a strength. You took those experiences and used them as a strength and applied those like because that you said it earlier. That's where your standards of excellence came from. You know, like so
Mm-hmm.
you were able to like change the narrative of your own story in your head or wherever, in your head or your heart, whatever, you know, like so like how do we cultivate an environment where the people in our within our community who have been through difficult things um decide that this is it stops here and I'm not going to pass that on to my kids or I'm not going to treat my neighbors that way or I'm not going to whatever, you know.
Basically, it starts the same way that I did, because if it was not for a library, I would not be here. Like straight up, for real, for real. I'm not saying that because it's a topic or anything, but I'm here because of my community and the library. Um, it helped break that cycle of thinking because you get access to books, you know, you get access to people from a different world. Because anyone who spends time at a library will never be made to feel uncomfortable. They're accepted. And a lot of places, that's the only place where you do feel accepted. And so when we comes to that, just Jackson County needs to just keep that in mind, that we just have to be considerate of each other and listening to each other, and not listen to respond, but to listen to understand, to just make this place a little bit better. And like when that commissioner stated those things, I got the child in me got angry. The teenager in me was like, and I was like, I turned around, like I remember I was sitting there outside and I was thinking before I made my decision, like I was talking to him. The kid in me was like, meant for lack of a better way of saying it, was throwing books around, going, mira lo que están haciendo, look what they're doing. How do we, they close this door. Nobody else is going to go through it. Team Jeremy's like, bro, you got to do something. They're closing these things like just one little close, about the 1 inch. You're going to turn around and it's 20 feet and it's closed, it's barred. You got to do something. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And that's the thing, man. People need to recognize, look at the path that you used to be where you are. If you started off in a single wide trailer, if you started off in an RV, if you started off with parents who suffered from, substance abuse, if you had a parent that suffered from domestic violence, whether it be the father or the mother, and you see what they're doing, that they're closing something, you need to activate. You need to be like, no, not today. I went through it, and nobody else should go through that as well. And do what you need to do. Like, you don't have to save the world, bro. You just gotta just keep one of those trails open. In my case, it was the library. And another one too is going to be, domestic violence shelters and the homeless shelters. Because I wanted to go to a homeless shelter, but I didn't want to go to them because I didn't want the stigma that came with it. Because someone sees you outside of a homeless shelter, bro, they look at you different. Like when we were having a discussion there at the innovations, if you see the video, when one of the candidates said, "Oh, when I see homelessness, I see mental health," and I was like, "Brr?" Like straight up Scooby Doo moment. And I was like, and I got up there and said it, and I could tell who knew what I was talking about. Like, hey man, when you're homeless, when you're going through it, your clothes have a certain smell. It's that musty, mildewy smell. That's why we spend so much money on cologne, you know. And so it's just remember who you are and how you got there. Keep those lanes, keep those avenues open.
Yeah. Who in this reentry and coming out and my personal experience with like 12-step rooms and getting sober is that like in early recovery, I'm sure it was similar with your reentry experience. You surround yourself with some people who have something that you want. You're like, hey, he's doing something right. I'm gonna do some of that. I want to do like that because I want to do what he's doing because I want what he's got. So now that you've kind of have a foundation set here in Jackson County, who do you admire today, like right now, and why? Who do you look up to? Who are your role models?
David Moore, the attorney that took me under his wing, and Mr. Earwood as well, man. So Mr. Earwood, uh, I didn't have any money for gas, bro. So I started off in Harold's, and I walked from Harold's all the way to the end of Main Street, putting my resume everywhere. He worked in an attorney's office. You might have remembered me. I mean, I probably looked like everyone else. And Mr. Earwood opened the door for me. He gave me an opportunity. And as I learned of which law I wanted to learn, I ended up gravitating to Mr. Moore because he did civil law, and that's what I wanted to do because he did domestic violence, and that's called to me as a paralegal initially before I transitioned to DSS work and all that. And a lot of the way that I speak, the way that I write, the way that I carry myself is a carbon copy of Mr. Moore, man. I'll be straight up with you. Mr. Moore probably sees it and chuckles to himself. He's like, look at this man over here. Like, all that, I can write big words. I can't pronounce them, though. So, don't ask me to pronounce big words. That's why when you hear me talking. But Mr. Moore is the one I admire the most, man, because I clicked with him, man. He made me feel normal. He really put me on game. He taught me everything.
He saw beyond. He saw beyond your past right away.
He did, man. Yeah, him and Mr. Earwood, they both gave me an opportunity, man, and I took it and run with it. I'm here because of these two men here in Jackson County. If we put it there, it's Jackson County, Nathan Earwood, David Moore. Those people really build me.
How does your like daily work in civil litigation kind of prepare you for like the dry stuff as a county commissioner, like budget proposals and paperwork and things like that? Like, how does your daily job prepare you for the job that you're running for?
All right. Before I answer your question, I'm going to give a disclaimer. I'm not trying to trigger anyone who's been through this. So when you work in civil litigation, like keep in mind, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm doing the criminal law and in the speeding in the traffic tickets. When you work with equitable distribution cases, particularly the where there's a lot of disputes, because in family law, when I worked with Mr. Moore, it was equitable distribution, which is the property, the debts, the items, basically where everyone makes a list. It's like this is how much it's worth, and you got to figure that out while you're also dealing with high emotions because they're really upset with each other. It's very rare that you get two people that are like, this ain't working out, man. Let's just be civil about it. It's very rarely like that. You have to figure out to keep that balance, to make sure everyone has an equitable distribution of both assets and liabilities and their debts. And that prepared me for being a county commissioner. Because I remember going like, what does a county commissioner do? Because I was just mad. I was like, you come from my library, bro. You got to go through me, son. Like, I'm a little vato, but I got a lot of heart, bro. Like, I'm not like Chihuahua to this. I'm small, but I got to.
That library. You took ownership of that library. You're not taking
bro. There's little Johnny probably walking through the doors right now. I don't even know this kid. That kid's going to be somebody because that kid checked out a book and he knows what he's saying. He's going to learn big words like me too. And I started just pulling it back, and I did the account. I'm like, this is just like EDs, right? Like, that's all it is ED. It's numbers. I'm like, man, I got an Excel sheet for that. I can figure this out. This ain't nothing but a check. Maybe ain't no thing but a chicken wing. And so I just started looking at what it was. And I was like, this is just ED work. And dealing with constituents is like dealing with clients. And I wanted to turn this into a tagline, but I was like, I don't know how to stick the landing. But I'm like, Jackson County needs a paralegal. I'm that paralegal. That's all we need. Let's do it. And then I just hit and running with it.
You've been, your kind of campaign messaging is talking a lot about listening first, right? Another potentially buzzword, another potential buzzword. You hear it at every candidate. Everybody wants to listen. Everyone says they're going to listen, What does listening in action look like with John Herrera?
So when it comes to listening to people, it's just being where they are and not listening when they're being not, I don't want to say coherent. That's not the right word that I'm thinking of. Not when they have it together, but when they're really passionate about something. Because it's sort of like when you deal with a custody case, like when I was dealing with them, when I worked with Mr. Moore and they told me, like, John, you have a knack for this. Well, it's because they'll give you 20% emotions and then you keep listening and then you look at it and you're like, oh, I see what the issue is. Like there's a young lady that's commenting a lot on my Facebook messages. She's all right. But when you you print it out and just mark off all you realize this is the issue.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing when you sit down, because I prefer to do one-on-one with people, because when you have one-on-one, you don't have to deal with the pulse from that whole energy for them, so they don't get to talk. So when you listen to someone, it's just sitting down and hearing what they have to say, and then just saying, all right, what is the issue? And then just taking it and running with it. Like, what is concerning to them? And just move. Like, my platform has changed so much. Like, yeah, I got the three buzzwords, three buzz things: protect institutions, growth with constituent minds, and responsive representation. They're all the same with the logic equation.
Love it. Love it. Give me just a sec. Hang on one second.
Good, baby, good.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. My computer was like glitching out for a second. It's like flashing at me real quick.
You need a HDMI cable or something.
I don't know. It's going from like dark mode to white mode, light mode. It's going from dark mode to light mode. On its own.
I've had that happen
on its own.
The ghosted machine.
Yeah. So I just hear a lot about, like, everybody wants to be a good listener. Everybody wants to be transparent. Like, everybody wants to do all of these things. And sometimes it's difficult, right? Sometimes, like, we get busy, we get confused, like we do our best, or they just do whatever they want. Who knows? But can you think of a time where in your campaigning recently, maybe since you've been talking to a lot of people, or just in your personal life, even, where you did give somebody the space, you gave somebody the space and you became the listener and they changed your mind? You have an example of that? Can you think of something where, like, oh, maybe I was off on that?
When I gave him the space. Honestly, because being a paralegal for so long, with the 12 years and going forward, it just became natural to me. Because if I say, hey man, what's the issue here? That I've sort of trained my brain to say something that it clicks on. Basically parbled myself, for lack of a better way of saying it. And I hear what people have to say. Like, I let them take the space. I let their feelings, their thoughts, just like right now I'm in the conference room at the library. It's a big wide space, and that's how I see it anytime I talk to someone. Like you, I let your energy take over. I let you say what you have to say, and I answer to the best of my ability. So when it just comes listening and sitting down and just making sure they have the space, I can't think of a recent time. And honestly, it's because it's just the way that I naturally am. Like, it's like when you think about it, like, did I eat yesterday? Of course you ate. You just don't remember what you ate because you were doing so much. So
I love that room. I've done so many podcasts in that same room that you're in right now. I really have. Like, over the years, over the course of like 8 years, I've probably done dozens of podcasts in that room. I used to lug like a big tote, Rubbermaid tote full of equipment into that room right there that you're sitting in.
Well, next time if we do this, man, we got to do it here together. We could be in the same room.
Yeah, we totally could. Just like availability, right? A lot's come out in the last couple years about just like attendance and participation, and many constituents feel like current Jackson County commissioners, not only are they not present for us to like communicate with, but they're not even like participating a whole lot up there as far as like attendance to meetings, attendance to board meetings, just like staying engaged. They all say they want to do stuff. How do we remain engaged as a county commissioner when things get dull, over like the course of the year? Say we fix the library and we take care of Silva Sam and all the kids are fed and we've got a shelter, all the boxes are checked. Things get dull. How do we remain engaged?
And you're talking from a county commissioner
Yeah,
standpoint,
just
not from a constituent.
from John
Okay.
Herrera's standpoint, wherever John Herrera is.
John Herrera's there to get a job. You get a job done. All right. Every constituent, when you vote, they sign a check for me. And it's poquito, but that's what I'm getting paid to do, and that's the job. You sit there and you get it done. It doesn't have to be every. Not every case you're going to get, like from a paralegal standpoint. This is something I used to tell the baby paralegals I train. Not every case you're going to get is going to be chaotic. Not every case you're going to get is going to have that little thing that grabs your attention. Just get the job done, man. Do the job and do it well, like Mr. Nielsen used to say to me. And so when you get there, it may be dull, but that's what you're there for. They pick you. And that's something that I feel that a commissioner sometimes forget. You were chosen. If you go up there and you do a shit job, you're embarrassing the people who vouch for you. Because a lot of people, they never met me. And they may not even see me because I just, I do my best to blend in because it's the inmate in me, like they were saying. But they know somebody in the community like you, Stephen, right? And they say, hey, man, what you know about John? Like, John, stand up, whoop-de-whoop. And they're going to remember that. So I have to keep that thing going. So when I get down there, I don't get to decide if it's dope. I'm only there to decide how it's going to get done. How I want to make sure that people can go home and rest easy. Because, like, I don't know if a lot of the constituents are having the same issues that I had when I realized what was going on. And I'm seeing these decisions being, like, sometimes I'm just sitting there going, like, yo, am I going to be good? Like, I gotta pay these bills. I got to go to work. I'm going to school, I'm doing 3 classes right now at WCU for distance learning. I ain't got time to worry about what they're doing up there. And I like how Julie said it, even though I don't agree with the exact wording. It's like, let's just make politics boring again. It's not boring, but we should make the politics, and when they know that even if they don't agree with the candidate there, the job is getting done well. Getting it done right and getting it done well.
Yeah, and just to me, her words that night, they spoke to me too. And I've thought about what she said. And it's to me, it's just how moving beyond the polarization to actually do some work. I really the last 2.5 years has just been we're just kicking the can down the road, just dicking around. I just don't feel like nothing productive very little productivity has come out of Grindstaff Cove, over the last 2 years. And that makes me feel some type of way. There's a lot of money going through there, but very little has been done.
I definitely agree with that. I think that it's too many people are only thinking about being reelected versus building 2 generations ahead. And that's something I came up with when I went to cashiers. Because I felt the some kind of way.
Say that again, loud.
Building 2 generations ahead. I've been practicing 2 generations ahead. That's all you got to do is think. It's sort of like when you work civil cases, civil litigations. When you work for an attorney as the caliber of Mr. Moore, he charges what he charges because he does the job right. Mr. Irwood, the same way. He charges what he charges to get sure the job is right. Once your case is closed, we're not trying to come back and fix it. It's done. It's done. Finito. You're not, you might need a modification, but that's based on substantial changes that occurred from the last order. But we made sure, and that was something Mr. Moore taught me, get it done right the first time. Make sure all your doors is closed. Like, for example, let's talk about, Silver Samurai Fest. That compromise, so if there's any decisions made, make it ironclad, where somebody later on can't come back so they can have a secret meeting that is entirely against the sunshine laws here in North Carolina and change it. Because that's what people expect from public officials. Just do the job right the first time, man. If you're going to take 10 meetings to decide what to do with $100,000, I don't want you to come back to another meeting 6 months. Oh, yeah, we messed up. Bro, you paid these people how much? I could have done it myself. Would give me the numbers? It's not that hard.
Yeah, do it right the first time. But also, it feels like so much of it was rushed. All their decisions are rushed. There's there's a swiftness to their actions, and there's not a lot of thoughtfulness. And so, me as just an independent constituent, I want to see more thoughtfulness. Like I spend a lot of time just like thinking about things in my personal life, you know, every single day, reflecting on my day. I journal every single morning, you know, before I leave the house. And so like it just seems like there's very little reflection in any of the actions. And there's just too much. I'm trying to go too fast. And you pump the brakes, baby. Pump the brakes.
Well, I agree with you when we do when we talk about these things personally. But one of the things I've learned working in the law as a paralegal, because I'm not an attorney, I'm just a paralegal. I don't give people legal advice. I'm very limited in what I can do here in the state of North Carolina. But I'll be honest with you, man, and a lot of people feel this way. It's rushed for a reason.
Yeah.
They don't want you to pay attention to what they're doing. Like a lot of people, when they go to the cases, like I want this done, I see, and I'm like, what are you hiding? What are you doing? You know, there's a reason they close out a case so fast. They don't want someone digging around. They don't want someone looking. And when you're working 40 hours plus a week, actually, let me tell you that 50 hours plus a week, because this is Trump's economy. Ain't nobody getting by on no 40. Straight like that. Ain't nobody getting by on no 40. People working their 50 hours a week or whatever, on top of the responsibilities, it's a fraction of paying for a reason. And those decisions are rushed and they're not well thought about. And I'm not throwing shade at the commissioners right now, but let's just get the job done right and done well the first time and not rush these decisions, because people start feeling like I am. Like, what are you hiding? What are you up to? Like the decision when it comes that they've made, you just look around like, wait, y'all didn't think of this? You know, you're not going to get nothing done right.
You brought up Julie. Do you think that the county does a good job at like partnering with the ECBI? Do you think that we could do more to foster better relationships? Do you think that the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians feels represented by Jackson County? And what could we do more to build relationships and make them feel more like a part of our community together? How do we bring unity there?
Well, when it comes to the EBCI, I respect their sovereignty as a nation, which is why I haven't gone to the council or anything, because they make their own decisions. And when it comes to working with EBCI, we just need that open dialogue. We both all need to understand we get our waters from the same streams. We live in the same mountains, and we do need to be more open to communicating with them. But on what issues, I unfortunately have not really looked into, because I've been focusing on everything on my platform. There are members here within Jackson County, not just members of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, but also members of other indigenous tribes, Native Americans. And when I worked with the ICWA law, it was ingrained in me, because Mr. Moore taught me ICWA law when we were preparing stuff and all that. He showed me the ins and outs. ICWA stands for Indian Child Welfare Act, where if a Native child is brought into a legal matter, their tribe is notified. And I'm going to bring that same thought process when it comes to anything. So if it affects a Native American, I'm going to try to definitely communicate with their people as well, because they're all together. They're very community based.
Very, very. Like they have a model that I want, you know, that we can use or kind of like facilitate a little bit more, because they are very, very. How about day one, right? What's your like day one initiatives? Like you get the job, you roll into the office. What are you focused on from the get-go?
Well, looking forward, because that's actually one of the first things I ask myself, because I know somebody's going to ask me this. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at all the stuff that's been done first, because I need to know where we're standing. Because again, a lot of decisions have been rushed, so I need to know what's going to come up there and bite me. First and foremost, like, you know, I got to know. Just like a paralegal, man, when the attorney's like hands you the case, you know what to do with this. Got it. Grab the case file, starts going through all the pleadings, highlighting, hey, we got to be careful for this one. The attorney on the other side did not use the proper case law, blah, blah, you know, we got to know what we're walking into. And once we do that, because you got to keep in mind, man, we are dealing with a Titanic. It's not a simple rowboat where we can steer it like, you know, quickly. All we got to do is steer, you know, on the left. This is like Titanic, baby. That thing ain't going to slow down. We got to grab, sorry about that. We got to grab the steering wheel with the other commissioners, not just me, because remember there's 5 people up there and I'm just one voice. It's very important you get the same voices up there to get anything done, or else you're gonna have people who are constantly gridlocked. Uh, we're going to have to steer it. We're going to have to see how much coal we have, and to speed it up if we need to get to certain issues that are prevalent versus slowing it down on others. I'm not saying we're walking into a mess. We're not. The commissioners we have there have done a lot of things with good intentions. We're just focusing on the bad ones. But to fix the issues that are prevalent to us and that are also issues that they didn't think of, to get to everything together, and that's going to be the first day one. I want to see what we're doing. I want to talk to Mr. King, see what's going on with that as well. Attend the meetings, talk to who I need to talk to, because I believe in taking holistic approaches to anything that I do. I got to see the entire effect when I see those things,
and address it from the root cause, and not slap some
exactly
band-aids on it.
Yeah, dude. Like I've never been a band-aid kind of guy. Anyone who knows me tell you, John doesn't do band-aids. And you can see it in my platform, like how I started switching. Like the first thing was the library. Then I started realizing, like, wait, we don't have affordable housing. Why don't we have it? Well, because the supply is low, the demand is high. It's simple mathematics, simple capitalism, if you will. And so then I realized, like, well, let's increase the supply. Pato, you ever heard of a slope ordinance? I'm like, what is that? My boy, I'm not going to say his name because he asked me not to. He literally printed it out. He goes, go study that. And I'm like, the hell is this? He's like, it's a slope ordinance, John. And I'm like, what is it? You can't build on a slope, bro. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. And you start looking at the root causes. I'm like, oh, you really do have to do all this.
Yeah, housing stuff's concerning. Like one of my biggest fears, just as like a working class member of Jackson County, I've told other candidates in regards to like the Highway 107 project coming up, is that the working class will just be left in the dust, left behind. Corporations are going to come in, open up businesses, pay shitty wages that are closer to minimum wage than a livable wage. And while housing is still already unaffordable. So like, it's like you just mentioned a holistic approach. And this is something that like is very holistic because of the housing crisis, the lack of livable wage jobs, and then like tying into like education and like finding livable wage jobs. I don't know that livable wage jobs necessarily, there's a whole lot of them here that are present, but many folks with the appropriate skills, now that we have high-speed internet throughout much of the county, many folks can utilize a work from home job and make a decent wage, but you got to have the skill set to acquire those jobs. And I don't know that we're like teaching our kids that, you know what I mean?
I definitely know what you mean. I definitely agree. I believe the Jackson County Economic Board are the ones behind the work on the brand brand. And kudos to y'all. Y'all have done such a wonderful job. I may be on the road board, but you guys did great, especially with the board, with getting the broadband in here and giving these people the opportunities, because that infrastructure is just as vital to us as our library is. The issue that I've noticed with things is this, and I don't know how to say it politically, and that's one of my biggest issues.
You don't have to on the Black Rabbit Collective.
I know, man, but people gonna get hurt, bro. That's the problem. You should have shared it better. I would be like, I'm talking from the heart. So if you get offended, I'm just talking from the heart. All right. The issue is there's too many people are jaded. Like, for example, I make a good wage. I do, but it came with such a sacrifice, bro. It can't and nobody should have to go through what I went through to get to what I have. Like, it should not be that way. I worked when I first came. We'll fast forward to Jackson County. When I first came to Jackson County, I worked at J Dragon. I didn't have any food in my fridge, so whatever was left over from that buffet, I'd take it home. And I was also working at Zaxby's, and I was also going to school full time. Even combined, I was still barely making it. People should not have to sacrifice their lives in order to have to be able to afford their groceries, to be able to do whatever to go on vacation. When I ended up leaving Mr. Moore's office to go to another one, the guy who hired me, Josh, is like, hey, when's the last time you took a vacation? I'm like, I don't remember. And I was looking back, I was thinking, I'm like, I do remember graduating, but I also remember studying and going to work, but I don't remember hiking. I don't remember seeing my family down in Texas. I don't remember seeing my family, my partner's family down in Georgia. I don't remember that because I was busy working so much. And so, what we do need to do is find a balance. And every business I've encountered wants to pay their employees a livable wage. It's just they're not able to because you're dealing with, the same situation that the commissioners had with the construction of the school. You got inflation. You got it's in my mom up there right now playing chicken with our economy. You got the prices rising. You got your kids needs a new pair of shoes. Like the time you turn around, like you got a kid who's like 8 years old. He's got a size 8 feet or whatever. Time you turn around, a kid needs another pair of shoes. You just bought him a pair of shoes. You know, it things is rough, man, and I don't know how we're going to tackle it because every time I've opened that door, you ever seen those scenes? When a guy opens the door, the character opens the door, and all of a sudden he gets hit with a whole bunch of stuff that's behind the closet. Anytime I open that door for affordability for anything, dude, that's exactly what it hits like. Like, boom, I want affordable housing. But how do I respect the rights of the landlord?
Yeah.
Because the landlord has to say he has rights just like a tenant does. They're making
taxes are going up for him. Taxes are going up for him.
taxes. They got to cover that cost. Businesses don't need cost. They pass it to the consumer. Anyone who thinks anything different has never ran a business. They've only been an employee.
Everybody knows most of these elections in North Carolina and Jackson County won and lost by the unaffiliated voter, right, John?
Mm-hmm.
Why should an unaffiliated voter grab a Democrat ticket at the polls in this primary?
Because I'm an independent thinker too. Straight up. I'm an independent thinker. Democrat is just the party I'm running under because they're the people that welcome me. They're the people that gave me the support. They're the people that I talk to, and they are on the same mission as I am. Not saying the Republicans ain't. I'm just saying that the Democratic Party is the one that I feel most comfortable approaching. And the reason the unaffiliated voter should vote for me is because I'm also, like them, an independent thinker. I strongly believe that any local party, any local election should not be based on party. It should all be bipartisan. Because when you get up there and that person is trying to do the budget, figuring things out, dealing with these issues, the last thing they're thinking about is, well, I'm a Republican. Well, I'm a Democrat. Nah, bro. You got to go after you clock out of that thing. You got to go right down to the Harrods. You got to go right down to the Inmar, the Walmart, Ingles, wherever you're going to, and you got to see these people in the face. And so the unaffiliated voter should vote for me because, again, independent thinker. I make my own mind, and the way that I move is I want the most data, the most forecast, so I know once the decision is made, the guy behind me doesn't have to deal with it. I can feel comfortable closing the door when I can look at someone that says, hey, man, we may not agree with how it should be handled, but the data said this is the best way to do it. You got to trust the process.
You feel like you're a healthy communicator and you'll be able to deliver those messages in the appropriate ways that they're received when needed?
Yes, I do. Because here's the thing, my message will go directly to the person's question. I feel super comfortable with you. Let's second guess myself. I'm actually asking this question. But once that para mode is on, like I like to call it, it's clear, concise, and free ambiguity. Like, for example, Mr. Herrera, if you push this agenda for affordable housing, what about the landlords? I said, man, listen, brother, what's good for the goose is not always good for the gander. And that's why we had to make that decision. You'll be all right. You've hustled. You've done this before. It's not exactly fair. But when we got people who are homeless, we got people working, we got to do something. We got to put our finger in the scale to keep that balance. That's all it is. It's just keeping that balance. And I'm that kind of candidate. It does not matter when I get up there if you voted for me or not. You're still a constituent. I'm still representing you. I don't have to agree with you. But I'm going to do the best job I can for you.
Do you feel like you live a balanced life in your personal life? And what does self-care look like when you're not paralegaling and attending county commissioners meeting and studying at the library and writing papers for school? What does self-care look like?
spending time with my partner and my 6 dogs and my 5 cats. I think I got 5 cats. I don't know. Amy, have you snuck a new one by me? Kid? I don't know. Dude, that's my heart. My mama lives with me. I get to see her every morning now. In fact, like I was really nervous. So I brought her mom right there with me. So I had my mama with me, and I see her. I spend time like every Sunday. Actually, every time we can, we sit down and have dinner and talk about things. I spend time with my dogs. That's why I share a lot about animals, man. Because animals, I've had days where I come home and the world just whooped the shit out of me. I mean, whooped the hell out of me. Like people were being mean to me that I've never met before. People criticizing what I'm doing because I can't do the same thing they're doing. I come home and like my dog Mia, bro, that's my little daughter right there. She'd be like, and I'm just like, oh, I'm loving on her. I'm laying on the couch, me and my partner sitting there watching Ghost. My mom would be like, Nico, you said to man, I made something to eat, man. My mom would be making the best rice and beans, boy. She always chucks. She's like, I used to make those when we were broke as hell. And I'm like, I know, mama, we got loot right now, but we still eat it like this because I know it's gonna be all right. Everything gonna be all right. And also having time, like in the morning, I work out 4 times a week. I got the house that I'm at, that we were able to obtain from all our sacrifice. We have enough room where I have a little mini home gym and I work. Like before this, like I was wicked nervous. Even though I know you and your energy is very comforting, very welcoming. I still went ahead, took my pre-workout, knocked out my 2 hour and a half workout, did my stretches, and I felt better. That's what the self-care is.
Yeah, it's important, dude. It's important as you take on more responsibilities and more things. I have to keep that in the forefront of my awareness, or else I will crash out, dude. I will crash out.
In my mirror, I use my bathroom mirror and I write messages on there. And there's one that I ended up hitting back in December because everything was just overwhelming because I was going to school too. I was taking 2 classes there at Southwestern, macroeconomics and microeconomics, because I wanted to see what I was getting myself into. And I'm like, I need to have these understandings. Take a course. Southwestern, great resource. Use it. Trust me, affordable. Use it. And I wrote on there, and this is something that I definitely encourage you to write on your mirror. It's 3 things on it. List it out. 1, conquer self. 2, cleanse. 3, conquer world. Hence why I work out in the morning, hit that shower, get all that negative energy off of me. And man, once you conquered yourself, because like I wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, on that David Moore hustle that I learned from him, because that man would wake up at 3 and I would wake up at 4. And when you worked out in that morning, you did 60 push-ups. Your whole body is aching. You hit that, but you conquered yourself. Like once you already whooped your own ass in the morning, with a workout, ain't nothing gonna hurt you. You know what I mean?
You can accomplish whatever you got on your schedule for the rest of the day. You bang that out.
Exactly.
Last question, because I gotta run. Brandon's coming on next. Brandon Elders. He'll be on with me at 1 p.m. What did John Herrera order from Fanny's last night?
I didn't order from Fanny's because I got to go see my auntie. But let me tell you about the John Herrera special, all right? That's my auntie. I love you so much, Fanny. You got the best food. I always order bolas, the dos bolas. You got to have the onions on it. Yeah, you got to get the bolas, boy. And you got to get the fried cheese. And auntie be making that hibiscus tea all fresh. Everything there is fresh. I was a sous chef for 3 years. I know what I'm talking about. Trust the Mexican. The food is good, son. You see me eating there, the food is good. If you don't see me in there,
yeah,
I'm very particular about the food.
The food is wonderful, dude. I'm looking at this window right in front of me. I can see the trailer from out this window right in front of me. I can see it right out the window, man. We're neighbors.
Bruh, when I get off of this here, I'm gonna maybe go pick me up and I'm going straight to Fatty's, boy. I got them bolas is calling my name. Yeah. I'm a little fat boy. I'll be ordering 2 orders. I worked out today.
It's good. It really is good. So, John, thank you for joining me, man. I greatly appreciate it. I look forward to having you on again in the future, but also after the election. We are live streaming results on Tuesday night. So if you feel like popping on, you will have access to a link to join me on Tuesday night if you want to come celebrate. I'm gonna be on here covering results as the polls close and as they're releasing votes. We're going to be covering it live, so I'll make sure that you got an invitation to that if you want to pop in and celebrate and plan for November.
Exactly. I trust the voters, the constituents of Jackson County to do what's best. Like, even if they don't vote for me, I trust their judgment 110%. So vote for who you feel represents your interest the best. You feel will do the best job. I trust your judgment. So, Steven, thank you for having me, brother. I look forward to attending more interviews with you.
Absolutely, dude. I love you, bro. You hang in there.
I love
man.
you too, Vato.
Soon, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll be back in like 45 minutes with Brandon Elders. Peace out.
Peace.